So here's part 2 of the Q&A. I'm just going to jump right back into the questions. So Smack and C asked a lot of questions. He asked, first one, did you ever reach the moment where you said, screw this, and seriously just wanted to quit? No, I never reached that point where I was that down in the dumps to seriously want to go home. Yeah, there were some bad days, but I never seriously considered quitting. Did you get the Virginia blues? No, I didn't. It really wasn't that big of a deal for me crossing state lines, as y'all could probably tell in my video. I never really got, overly excited about them. And being in one state for so long really wasn't that bad. It's a pretty awesome state, Virginia. I really love Virginia, so it never got old, and I never really got the Virginia blues. Next question: did anyone on the trail? Did you avoid anyone on the trail because they bugged you? No, not really. No one bugged me that bad where I really tried to avoid them. I get along with people fairly well, so there wasn't anybody that bugged me that bad. When did you realize that you could really finish? I realized from the beginning that I, physically could finish. Mentally, that's really the only part that was, somewhat questionable, whether I could, deal with the bad days and keep pushing into the good days. And I realized early on that I could do that. Did you ever get lost or turned around? I would say more turned around, not lost where I was heading south on the trail and didn't really know where I was. But there's some points where the trail takes a sharp right and you keep going straight and you don't realize it, and after a couple hundred yards, after not seeing a white blaze, you realize and you turn around and you go find the trail. So, never really got lost or turned around that often. Did you ever get spooked or weirded out? No, not really. Nothing comes to mind that I got scared. There was one hitch that Dutch and I got out of Bland, Virginia, and the guy was drunk. He was actually drinking in the car, and we were speeding back to the trail. I mean, it was probably record time getting from Bland to the trail, but I was somewhat scared, but I was like, hey, whatever. We're getting back to the trail, and sure enough, we did safely, which is good. Worst combination of food? I never really had really gross food. There was one stretch where I decided I didn't want to cook anymore, so I just did lunch 2 times a day, so lunch, dinner, and I got really tired of pepperoni, tortillas, and cheese, and I didn't pack out anything sweet or any chocolate, so I was really craving something sugary. What hikers did you watch on YouTube? I watched Gator Miller's AT through hike, and I watched Will Wood's AT through hike. And I'm currently watching Joe Brewer's PCT through hike right now, but those are the Will Wood and Gator Miller are the 2 AT hikers that I watched before coming out here. And do you have the PCT or CDT on you? Yeah, I announced on my other video that I'm going to be hiking the PCT next year, and I of course want to do the CDT. If I do the PCT, I have to do the CDT. So if everything goes to plan, I really only plan out a year ahead of what I'm for sure going to do. So I know for sure I'm hiking the PCT, and after that, what I would love to do is apply for my passport here pretty soon, and then apply for a worker's visa in New Zealand and move out there and work over the I'll be skipping out of winter, so I'll be working over the summer because it's in the southern hemisphere, and work a seasonal job over there, save up enough for the CDT, come back to the CDT and be a triple crowner by 20. So that would be pretty cool. So yes, definitely want to do those trails. John Raider 3 asks, what was your favorite trail town and why? That is really, really hard to answer. There's a lot of good trail towns. Damascus, Virginia, of course, that's where Trail Days is held. Hot Springs, North Carolina, you walk right through that town. Irwin, Tennessee, Uncle Johnny's Hostel, stayed there for a good while. And at the end, Millinocket, Maine is an awesome little town. That's the town you go to after you summit Katahdin. And I really liked all the towns in Maine. They were so small. Oh, Andover, Maine, that was a really cool little town. Got a ride into town for Bruce the Plumber. That was funny. But yeah, there's lots of great towns, and it's hard to narrow them down to the best, but those are some that stick out in my mind. When could you not cowboy camp due to the bugs? Pretty much when spring started rolling around, which was I remember April 20th. We were going into Harrisburg, Virginia, with it was me, Dutch, Shao, and Green Hornet, and we were descending into Harrisburg, so a really long descent, and the trees started to become green. There was actually leaves on the trees, and we were freaking out because we had just been hiking, leafless trees, just brown leaves everywhere, and finally seeing that green was really awesome. So of course the bugs started coming out around then. They really weren't bad anywhere. The one state I do remember them being terrible is Vermont. Those black flies are incredibly annoying. You'll be having lunch and they'll just be biting you everywhere, and they'll get on your nerves pretty bad. But I did cowboy camp occasionally. There was, I think I cowboy camped in Pennsylvania. Yeah, I cowboy camped in Pennsylvania one time. Cowboy camped on White Cap Mountain in Maine, the one right before Katahdin. So, they're not terrible, but I think people make a big deal out of the bugs. They really weren't that bad except for Vermont. Next question. Favorite trail food? Special dark Hershey's chocolate bars. Those are great at the end of the day. Sour Patch Kids, those are always great to sit down and munch on. Yeah, I think those are probably the best. It's funny, they're both candy, not really any substance to them, but that's what comes to mind. And the longest day was in Pennsylvania. I did 30.4 miles. It got me to the shelter right before Delaware Water Gap. I wanted to do that just so I could have a Nero into Delaware Water Gap, and then I Nero'd out the next day. So, toughest portion of trail, I would definitely say the whites are the toughest portion. I don't know how many miles they are, but they're tough miles. There's no easy miles in the whites, except for maybe coming into Franconia Notch, but very rocky, very steep climbs, and very unforgiving. Toughest portion. How did the trail challenge you mentally, and how did you manage? Honestly, the trail is more mentally challenging than physically challenging, I'd say. But I mean, they both go together, because real hard physical climbs may mentally be really tough for people. But it's just, I realized early on after I got neuro in Fontana Dam, I was like, okay, there's gonna be some really crappy days. I'm gonna have to just push through them, and there's gonna be good days after them. So I just had to keep that mindset throughout the whole trail, and just push through the bad days, and I knew there was going to be good days eventually after them. Next question is from Tom Wolf. He says, did you stay in any hostels and motels, and which ones were the best and the worst? I stayed in a lot of hostels and motels. In the South, I stayed at nearly every one. I say some of the worst hostels were Top of Georgia. Top of Georgia, it's really nice, really clean, but the atmosphere, you'll kind of realize this if you thru hike. You can tell when people are in it for the money, and when people are really in it to help hikers. And the vibe there wasn't really good. And I heard some bad stories about the owners getting onto hikers and just being not very good people. So that was one of the hostels that I didn't particularly like. The Doyle is very famous on the trail, but I really didn't get the whole big deal about it. The lady owner's from Mississippi, so she really liked us. But the guy was kind of he was a butt to me one time. I came in with like a pizza box and like a lemonade, and I like stepped into the restaurant like 1 foot, and he like yelled at me, and I didn't even acknowledge him and just walked upstairs. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and the place is pretty disgusting. But some of the best ones, Woods Hole Hostel is really awesome. Neville and Michael, they run that place very well. You definitely got to do the half-mile down to there and at least get a smoothie. Those smoothies will probably make you stay. The Woods Hole, Uncle Johnny's was neat. Mitch's parents bought us a room at the Hikers Inn in Damascus. That was a really nice place. I love that. That was really cool. There's a bunch of other ones that are just not coming to mind, I usually could name them off, but for some reason I'm just not able to think about them. But next question, DJ Kevgar, what was the most? I hope I pronounced that right. What was the most difficult part of the trail terrain-wise, and favorite food? Wait, favorite and least favorite areas, and what did you think about the Maryland section? Most difficult part, I think I just answered that, was the whites. Those are definitely the hardest part of the trail. And what else do you ask? Favorite and least favorite areas. Least favorite areas was northern Pennsylvania. Southern Pennsylvania wasn't that bad, but once you hit the rocks in northern PA, that was by far the worst part of the trail. And favorite area was Maine. Maine was my favorite state along the whole trail. And what did you think about the Maryland section? Maryland's kind of it's in a weird spot because you leave Virginia finally, and then you hit West Virginia for only 8 miles, and then you're into Maryland for a very short time, and then you hit Pennsylvania right after that. But I know it's a very short section of trail, and honestly, it's I don't remember it very well. I think I did it in like a day and a half. Yeah, you leave into Pennsylvania. So I did like 15 miles the first day, and then 26 the next day. So I covered Maryland in like a day and a half, and it was a fairly easy part of the trail. I don't really remember any huge climbs. I remember one, and it wasn't very bad at all. So compared to the rest of the trail, it's honestly very easy. So yeah. Next question. 80 Papa Bear AT Hacker says, would you recommend trekking poles? Why or why not? Absolutely, I would recommend trekking poles. You know, for me, they were constantly used. If you buy a tent that has the ability to be set up with trekking poles, your poles are going to be constantly be used when you're hiking, especially in the beginning. You know, when you don't really have your trail legs, they definitely help you on the climbs and on the descents. The descents really are what will hurt your knees. That's what got Dutch in the beginning, was the descent off of Sassafras. He hurt his knee, and those trekking poles, they take some weight off your knees, weight off your legs. They don't really use your upper body. It's more for stability. You know, when I was learning to use them, I picture myself as a giraffe. You know, the giraffe, their front legs are a lot bigger than their back legs, at least I think. And so that's kind of how I pictured myself. And you'll learn your own way how you like to use them. I kind of like to use them like ski poles. You know, when I'm going uphill, I just keep trucking them, and I don't really alternate them. But I would definitely recommend them. Find a tent that can use them, that's weight constantly being used, and it will definitely help you out, you know, with stability, falling, and whatnot. So, next question. Darren Warren, he asked, how many Snickers did you eat, and do you think that you should be called Snicker? It's a very funny question. And when you first asked this, I was like, that's actually a really good question, because I ate a lot of Snickers on the trail. I'd say I probably averaged 2 a day. So you're looking at 159 days, and of course there's some outliers where I would eat like 4 or 5. So you're probably looking at like 300 to 400 Snickers along the trail. I should definitely be sponsored by them. But yeah, and do I think I should be called Snicker? No, there wouldn't really ever a story behind it. If I would have washed a Snicker in my pants the first time I did laundry, you know, maybe I could have been clean Snicker. But you know, I'm gonna go by a different trail name on the PCT, so I mean, cross your fingers I do something stupid with the Snicker. So yeah. Next question, Rusty Blair, he says, you thru hike 2,200 miles. I know you're young and light on life experience, but how has the AT changed or grown, educated you that traditional education lacks? That's a very good question. You definitely learn a lot of things that traditional education would never teach you. You know, for me, you know, you learn to be independent, make your own decisions, just you know, learn that there's, you know, some things you can't really change. You know, the weather, it's gonna be bad if it wants to be bad, it's gonna be good if it wants to be good. So and I don't really think, at least for me personally, the AT doesn't really change you. it more makes, at least for me, it made you just realize, why you do certain things that make you who you are. And it's up to you if you want to, change yourself. And that's why some people who are so set in their ways will never change, because you have to mentally make that decision to change your ways. And for some people that have never happened, and for me, it was more of a realization of why I do certain things, and I'm okay with that. But that's a very good question. Alright, I only have 2 more questions left. This is about like 15 and a half minutes, so I should be able to answer these fairly quickly. 100 miles a year, 100 miles a year, not an year. She said she went on like a week-long hiking trip, and she couldn't get the image of a bear attacking her, so she wasn't able to sleep very well. So she asked, what was my experience with bears, and also during the week that you had no appetite, what did you eat most? So I saw 7 bears along the trail. The first time I ever saw a bear was in the Shenandoahs, which you're more likely to see a bear there. There's a pretty big bear population there. And I was in the shelter, and she just popped out with her cub and just ate right in front of the shelter. And it was a very awesome experience. It was kind of the mountain was in a cloud that night, so it was very cool just to watch her and her cub. The cub was always behind her. She was always between us and the cub. And once someone stood up and walked to the picnic table, she immediately took off. So she was smart. She wasn't gonna mess with us. And then that next morning, hiking out, I saw another mom and 2 of her cubs, and they saw me. I heard them first, and then I looked and I saw them running away from me up the mountain. And then that was 5 of them. And then I saw one in New Jersey, and I saw another one somewhere, but I don't remember where. And in New Jersey, I was walking along the trail. I was just looking down, and I look up, and maybe 20-30 yards from me is a bear kind of peeking around the corner of the current turn in the trail. And it clearly had smelled me first, because its nose was in there and it was smelling. And I stopped and I looked at it, and we made eye contact, and it went off to the right side of the trail, and I walked up, not like too close to it, and it just kind of made a little L. It went up to this little ridge, and I sat and watched it, and it just went on doing its thing. It didn't give a care in the world that I was there, and I just kept hiking. So black bears, they really don't want to mess with you. They're really truly not that big. I feel like I could beat up a black bear, but I'm just kidding. It would definitely be a fight, but if you're fighting for your life, I feel like you could take one. But there's no reason to really worry about bears. And like I said earlier, hang your bear bag, you'll be good. So, and also during that week that you had no appetite, what did you eat most? I still ate the same things, I just didn't eat very much of it. I really don't know why I didn't have much of an appetite. Most of the hikers I met did go through some period where they just really weren't that hungry and didn't eat that much. Last question, Smokey615 says, did you encounter any mean hitchhikers? So, no one was ever mean. Most of the people that pick you up are really awesome people. The only time I remember like any somewhat hostility towards us was in Blaine, Virginia. That was just an interesting time going into Blaine, Virginia. We were trying to get a hitch. We hadn't got a hitch out yet, and I had that little sign that said hikers need to ride back to AT, and we heard this diesel truck coming behind us, and I turned around like, oh yeah Dutch, this is the one, we're definitely getting it. And he started to slow down. We're like, oh yeah, we got one. And the dude pulls to the side, and we go to his window, and his big old diesel engine's still on, and we could barely hear the guy, and he's saying something to us, and we couldn't hear what he was saying. We're like, what are you saying? And eventually I heard him. He says, y'all picked up hiking, so y'all better just keep on hiking. And we were just like, okay, have a good day. And we definitely could have escalated that, but this was a backwoods Virginia boy. We didn't want any of his diesel truck or him to get mad, so we were just like, all right man, have a good day. And we just kept walking down the street, and eventually got picked up by the drunk guy and made it back to the trail probably faster than that diesel truck could have made it back there. So yeah, that's it for the Q&A. Almost 20 minutes long. So I hope y'all you know, found the questions that you had, that hopefully answered them well. And if you have any other questions, leave them in the comments of this video, and I'll answer you via text in the comments. So thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later.